My wife had a 6-month affair, then blamed it on mistakes from 3 years ago we'd already fixed in counseling. I filed for divorce. Now she's on her knees begging for one last chance. Hello Reddit I+ here. My name is Jonathan. I'm 31. And until a few months ago, I thought I was happily married to my 28-year-old wife, Lena. We'd been together for nearly 8 years, married for 6, and I thought we'd already survived the hardest season of our marriage. Turns out I was wrong, dead wrong. See, Lena and I didn't have the perfect fairy tale love story. We'd been through a storm 3 years ago, and it nearly destroyed us. Back then, I was working brutal hours as an engineer, while also trying to help my dad through chemotherapy. Between the late nights, the endless calls from the hospital, and the crushing fear of losing my father, I was stretched thin. I wasn't unfaithful, but I was absent. I'd come home exhausted, half listening when Lena talked, often brushing off her worries because they seemed small compared to the possibility of burying my father. I didn't take her on dates. I didn't laugh with her the way I used to, and I know now I made her feel invisible. It all came to a head one night when Lena screamed through tears that she felt like she was living with a stranger, that she was competing with my work and my family for scraps of attention. I still remember her words. I'm your wife, John, not some roommate you barely tolerate. At the time, I thought she was being unfair. But once my dad's cancer went into remission and the pressure at work eased, I realized she was right. I had failed her emotionally. Terrified of losing her, I begged her to go to marriage counseling with me. To my relief, she agreed. 8 months. That's how long we sat across from a therapist, learning how to communicate, how to fight without cruelty, how to listen without defensiveness. Lena told me, I forgive you. I understand now why you shut down. I just needed to know I still mattered to you. We renewed our vows on our 5th anniversary. She cried as she promised me forever again, and I believed her tears were genuine. She even wrote vows about how proud she was that we had survived a near collapse and come out stronger. For a year afterward, things felt incredible. We were planning to buy a bigger house, talking about kids, traveling. I truly thought we'd built a stronger foundation. But while I was dreaming of a future, Lena was building her revenge. I found out about her affair not from her, but from a woman named Alyssa, the girlfriend of the man Lena had been sleeping with, Trevor, one of her co-workers. Alyssa called me out of the blue, voice shaking with rage and heartbreak, and told me I deserved to know. Then she sent me screenshots. Those messages shattered me. It wasn't just about sex. Lena told Trevor things like, with you, I feel alive again. John never really sees me the way you do. Sometimes I wish I could just leave him and not look back. Reading that, I felt like my chest was being ripped open. And when I confronted Lena, she didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't even deny it. She just stared at me with this cold detachment and said, now you know how it feels. Now you know what it's like to be abandoned by the person you trusted most. I was stunned. She said she'd never forgiven me for those months 3 years ago, that counseling was just a way to buy time until she could make me pay. She told me every kiss, every laugh, every plan for the future was an act, because she knew she was saving her revenge for later. I'll never forget her next words. Watching you trust me again while I was with Trevor, it made me feel whole. It made us even. She thought neglect during my father's illness equaled 6 months of lies and an affair. I tried reasoning with her. I said, Lena, being distant during a family crisis is not the same as deliberately choosing to cheat, lie, and destroy everything we built. She fired back that emotional abandonment was worse than physical betrayal, that I had made her feel worthless, and she had every right to make me feel the same. I couldn't even look at her after that. I packed a bag and moved in with my older brother, Stephen, who nearly put a hole in the wall when I told him what Lena had done. That's when Lena's mask slipped. She started calling me non-stop, leaving voicemails that swung between pleading and manipulative. She actually said, now that I've had my revenge, we're finally free to start fresh. We've both hurt each other equally. We can move forward with no resentment. Do you know how sickening that sounded? She called her 6-month affair therapy. She said it was cathartic for her to hurt me the way I hurt her. I told her she was delusional. I told her that normal people communicate their pain. They don't pretend to forgive while secretly plotting betrayal. That's not marriage. That's not love. That's cruelty. She tried to spin it back on me. She claimed I was hypocritical, that I'd dismissed her pain back then. But I reminded her that she had literally told both me and our therapist that she forgave me, that she understood. She chose to lie. She chose to act. And now she wants me to forgive her one last time. But here's the truth. There is no last time. There's nothing left to save. Because Lena wasn't just unfaithful. She was calculated, vindictive, and cold enough to build an entire second life just to watch me crumble. And once you realize someone is capable of that kind of cruelty, you can never unsee it. So I filed for divorce. I don't care how many times she calls or how many crocodile tears she cries about starting over. I don't care that she says she finally feels ready to be a good wife. She destroyed the marriage herself the moment she decided her revenge mattered more than honesty. And here's the bitter irony. 3 years ago, I was willing to do anything to save my marriage. Now, I want nothing more than to leave Lena in the wreckage she created. When I filed for divorce, Lena's world crumbled in ways she hadn't planned for. See, she thought her little revenge scheme would hurt me, but then we'd patch things up and she'd get both satisfaction and her marriage. She never thought I'd actually walk away for good. The day she was served, she showed up at my brother Stephen's doorstep sobbing. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, clutching the crumpled divorce papers like they were a death sentence. She begged me to talk. Stephen blocked the door and told her to leave, but I stepped outside. I'll admit, part of me wanted to hear what she had to say. Her opening line? "John, you're overreacting. We've both made mistakes. We can fix this overreacting." That word hit me like a slap. I told her calmly, "Lena, this isn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is losing your temper in a fight. You didn't make a mistake. You made a 6-month choice." She crumbled onto the steps, wailing, "But I only did it because I love you. Because I needed you to feel my pain so we could move forward." That was the moment I realized just how twisted her thinking was. About 2 weeks later, I got another call, but this time from Trevor's girlfriend, Alyssa. She wanted to thank me for filing for divorce because, in her words, it finally scared Trevor straight. Turns out, once Lena's affair went public, Trevor panicked. He confessed everything to Alyssa, begged her not to leave him, and promised he'd cut ties with Lena forever. I laughed when Alyssa told me that Trevor had blocked Lena on everything, changed his phone number, and even asked his boss to move him to another department so he wouldn't run into her at work. Lena's great love ditched her the second things got real. When she realized Trevor wasn't going to play knight in shining armor, her calls to me doubled, then tripled. The voicemails shifted tone, from pleading to desperate to manipulative. "John, you can't just throw away 6 years of marriage over one mistake. I was hurting. Can't you understand that? We promised each other forever. Don't let this be the end." But each time I heard her voice, all I could think about was the coldness in her eyes when she first confessed. The divorce wasn't smooth. Lena hired a lawyer who tried to argue that my emotional neglect 3 years ago contributed to the downfall of the marriage and should affect the division of assets. I sat in that courtroom listening to my wife, no, my ex-wife, paint me as some cruel, absent husband who had driven her into the arms of another man. It took everything in me not to explode. Thankfully, my lawyer was sharp. We presented evidence from our old counseling sessions where Lena explicitly said she forgave me and was proud of how we rebuilt our marriage. We also had Alyssa's testimony, complete with screenshots of Lena admitting she had planned the affair as revenge. The judge didn't buy Lena's narrative. The assets were split fairly, but she didn't get the upper hand she wanted. And watching her realize she'd lost not just me, but the moral high ground too, it was strangely cathartic. After the court hearings, Lena spiraled. She showed up at my office one afternoon, causing a scene in the lobby until security escorted her out. She posted long rants on social media about how I was a cold-hearted husband who abandoned his wife when she needed him most. But the thing about lies is, they crumble under scrutiny. Most of our mutual friends knew the truth, and when Alyssa shared the screenshots in a private group chat, Lena's support evaporated. People who used to defend her stopped answering her calls. She became isolated, bitter, and angry. And me? For the first time in years, I felt free. At first, I didn't know what to do with that freedom. Divorce felt like a death. Even though I was the one who pulled the plug, I grieved, not for Lena, but for the life I thought I had. Stephen encouraged me to hit the gym with him. My best friend Lucas dragged me on weekend road trips. Slowly, I started rediscovering myself outside of being Lena's husband. I even went to therapy on my own, not because I thought I was broken, but because I needed to process the betrayal. My therapist told me something I'll never forget. "Jonathan, closure doesn't come from her apology. It comes from you choosing peace over pain." So that's what I did. The last time I heard from Lena was 6 months after the divorce was finalized. She showed up at the coffee shop I go to every Saturday morning, slid into the seat across from me, and whispered, "John, I still love you." She looked worn out, hollow eyes, thinner than before, like she'd aged a decade in half a year. "I made a mistake," she said. "Trevor was nothing. It was always you. I'll spend the rest of my life proving it if you give me one more chance." I stared at her for a long moment, remembering every lie, every calculated word. Every night she crawled into my bed while secretly laughing with another man, and I said, "Lena, the man you married doesn't exist anymore. You killed him the moment you chose revenge over love. I hope you find peace, but it won't be with me." I stood up, left my half-finished coffee on the table, and walked out. That was the last time I saw her. It's been a year now. My dad is still in remission, stronger than ever. I bought a small house of my own. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. I've started dating again, slowly, carefully, with walls up but hope in my heart. And here's the biggest lesson I've learned. Love without trust isn't love at all. It's a performance. Lena performed for years, and I believed it, but I don't regret leaving her. If anything, I regret not seeing the truth sooner, because real love doesn't seek revenge. Real love doesn't keep score. Real love heals instead of destroys. And someday I believe I'll find that. But even if I don't, I'd rather be alone with peace than married to poison disguised as love. After the divorce, Lena assumed Trevor would be her safety net. She told people privately that if I was too stubborn to forgive her, at least she had Trevor to fall back on. But Trevor wasn't playing the role she imagined. Alyssa left him for good, and Trevor, terrified of losing his career, went into damage control mode. He begged his boss to transfer him to a different branch in another city. Within a month, he was gone. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. Lena blew up his phone for weeks, leaving desperate voicemails. "You said you cared about me. Don't just disappear. We can finally be together now. Why are you running? I gave up everything for you, Trevor. Answer me." But Trevor never answered. He blocked her on everything, and rumor had it he even started dating someone new almost immediately. That rejection shattered her. Lena thought she could salvage her reputation with friends and family by spinning the story in her favor. She tried telling people I was cold, that I abandoned her, that my neglect forced her into Trevor's arms, but the truth has a way of leaking. Alyssa, furious and heartbroken, sent Lena's text messages to a few mutual friends, and from there, they spread like wildfire. Screenshots of Lena writing things like, "He has no idea I'm planning this. It's perfect. He'll finally feel what I felt," made their way into group chats. One by one, her friends dropped her. Invitations stopped. Phone calls went unanswered. Even some of her own relatives distanced themselves. She became the villain of her own story. And the worst part was, she had written the script herself. Without me, without Trevor, without her social circle, Lena began spiraling. I heard through the grapevine that she started drinking heavily, showing up late to work, and eventually losing her job. She posted long, rambling rants online about men being liars and forgiveness being a scam. At first, I ignored it, but when she started showing up at my old haunts, places she knew I liked, it was clear she hadn't let go. One night, Steven and I went out for drinks, and Lena stumbled into the same bar. She walked straight up to me, eyes glazed, and slurred, "John, you're the love of my life. I messed up, but you know you'll never find someone who loves you like I do." Steven physically put himself between us, telling her to back off. She laughed bitterly, downed another shot, and shouted loud enough for the entire bar to hear, "He'll come back to me." He always does, but I didn't. 6 months later, Lena tried one final move. She showed up at my new house unannounced, looking nothing like the woman I once married. Thin, tired, eyes hollow. She carried a box filled with old photos of us, the vow renewal letters we'd written, and even the anniversary gifts we'd exchanged. She dropped it at my doorstep and whispered, "John, I kept everything, because deep down, I knew you'd forgive me. Please, let's start over. We can build it back. I'll never hurt you again." I looked down at the box, then back at her. And for a brief moment, I remembered the girl I fell in love with years ago, the one who smiled at me in a bookstore, the one who danced barefoot in our kitchen. But then I remembered the coldness in her eyes when she said she had planned to betray me. And I said, "Lena, you didn't just burn our marriage. You salted the earth so nothing could grow there again. I don't hate you, but I'll never come back to you." Her tears didn't sway me. She left the box on the porch and walked away. I donated everything inside to charity the next day. It's been 2 years now. I've built a life I'm proud of. I got a promotion at work. I've reconnected with old friends. And yes, I've started seeing someone new. She knows my story, all of it. And instead of judging me, she admires how I chose dignity over vengeance. As for Lena, I don't know where she is anymore. The last I heard, she moved out of state. Maybe she's still chasing closure. Maybe she's still trying to rewrite the story in her favor. Or maybe she's finally learning the hardest truth of all. Revenge doesn't heal wounds. It deepens them. And love built on lies will always collapse, no matter how many times you try to rebuild it.